Okay, so as I said, I mean, like one part is availability. Okay, how much of your stocking patterns are decided by marketing trends, marketing needs? Because obviously, say a meeting like which you have with your say. I want to forecast. These are the inventories which are supposed to be there, right? So how much is the input which is given by marketing, how much is it past data, how much is it constrained by I cannot have everything. I mean, in an e-commerce store you can have everything, right? Whereas
Yeah.
on in a real storefront there are only certain things which you have to prioritize, A versus B versus C,
Yeah.
or maybe something completely different. So
Yeah.
take us through roughly, I mean, without giving out any confidential information, what sort of meetings, what sort of things are discussed in those meetings when you
So
discuss?
what generally happens? So there are two kinds of things, right? First is when you are planning for the demand, because before the buying part. So what happens in those cases is, and there is no one size fits all answer. It's not just past data, or it's not just the marketing information. It's everything together. It's also understanding what are the trends that are happening, because suddenly the camouflage t-shirts and jeans go in a big way, then again they go out of fashion, etc. So these things keep changing. So this is where all the teams come together to decide that, okay, this is how much. So first you decide the quantum of what sales you want to achieve, right? I mean, what is your target, what's your ambition. Then then you come to a point that, okay, if I have to achieve this much sale, then from which category of product is that growth going to come from. And hence then if the growth is going to come from these categories, then how many styles do I need, etc. Then there is obviously the information about what is the store cluster, the demography near the store. Is it more value focused? Is it you more for commercial fashion? Is it more for high end kind of fashion, early adopters? So you use all these kind of things in the discussions while before arriving at that, yes, this is what we should go and invest in. So this is a state which is called as assortment planning, and this is not specific to Landmark. This happens across retail. I mean, all retailers operate in a similar way. In this, the process doesn't change that way. So that is this is the assortment planning part, where you then start thinking. Then you that is when you decide that, okay, I need these many styles of this print, of this color, in this much quantity, because I'm going to sell it in these 100 stores at a rate of sale of 1 point whatever per day, and hence I need it by June. So you start building a critical path, because if and you always plan in apparel for launches. You always plan for launch. So you have a spring launch, so which is, for example, says Jan. So if Jan is my launch, I know my lead times from suppliers, I know my transit times, I know my internal strategy building time, and therefore when should I start. So that is how these things are decided.
Okay. Now, you said about like technology investment by companies. I mean, like there are a lot of companies which are investing in technologies like RFID and all those things. And one of the things which gets thrown around quite a bit is, forget about the fact that Google and Amazon can probably hear what we are saying and probably
Yeah.
can figure out what is going on. The other part of technology which is really going in the B2B space is the IoT sort of automation sort of space, where we have seen pictures of warehouses of companies like Amazon and Flipkart where everything is getting automated. So all those silos are there, and you have automated robots which are picking up those stuff which is
Yeah.
coming up over
Yeah.
there. So in the Landmark Group, and given that you operate across so many countries, especially in one particular region, what sort of automation are you guys looking at, and how much of learning and unlearning has to be done for those type of automation?
So I don't know if you have recently visited Landmark Group's LinkedIn page. So we recently inaugurated one of the biggest automated DCs in this region, right? So it is millions of dollars kind of an investment, and that is the thing that you see in all these case study videos. So all those sort of technologies are there in it. So I think for obviously for Landmark and even for other retailers, now it has started to make sense to automate these things, right? I mean, because one, obviously automation gives you the speed, automation gives you that accuracy, because to survive in the market, you have to be now fast and accurate and be able to process volumes at a time. The throughput is becoming a very important factor. And obviously there are other things like dependency on because this part of the region, most of the people in the working class are expats, right? Expatriates. So then you don't have to worry about those visas, XYZ. So I think automation anyways is getting adopted in this region. A lot of retailers have automated in some minor or major scale, but recently Landmark has built its biggest automation DC in this region in retail
Okay.
space. So automation is, I feel, going forward. Either the amount of automation depends really on what you are trying to solve, right? I mean, automation is not the solution to everything. You need to know what you want to achieve with that automation and then see whether full automation is right, semi automation is right, or maybe some minor automation is needed. So it purely depends on what is the problem that you're trying to solve, right? I mean, for a 3PL 3PL who is just handling pallet in, pallet out, for them you don't need that kind of an automation. You just need pallet storage and that should be sufficient. Depending
Okay.
whether if you are handling a lot of units, which as you referred, a lot of e-commerce company handle, so they have pick units, right? So when you're picking units, then you need a different kind of automation. So you have to see at what volume, what kind of investment makes sense. And obviously any organization, how much appetite do they have to invest? That also is a big part, right? Because this automation with it also brings a lot of fixed cost uh, along.
So one of the besides the expenses, the fixed cost, and the fact that technology can becomes redundant very quickly, right? I mean, like the
Yeah,
technology
yeah.
cycle is going very fast. The other challenge that automation brings up is the lack of or the loss of jobs. I mean, especially retail is considered to be a very labor intensive, at least on the selling part. The physical part is labor intensive part. So what kind of manpower reduction are you guys looking at? And second part is, what about training your existing parts? Because you will not be obviously letting go of all of them. There will be, when automation comes up, you will have certain other roles which will be opening up over there. So what kind of retraining is needed on a day-to-day basis, specifically in your type of role for managers, etc.?
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of the biggest learnings, at least for us, and because I was also closely associated with the project from a business side of things of the automation project that we did. One of the biggest thing is retraining, and I think that's where somewhere organizations, because the money is put into automation, we all worry about automation working right more.
Yeah,
But I think the intangible cost, the people who are going to run it, because they have now completely leapfrogged the way they used to warehouse, right? So, for example, 10 years back, you are used to a certain way of thinking and managing the operations. Now, with automation, you have to basically follow a set of rules. There is no jugaad that is going to work. So, if you try to game the system is to game you, and your game will be over after that. So, it's that kind of a thing. So I think retraining is a very big component. Skill development is a very big component, which I think we have done. And what we have done is we have used our existing staff in the warehouses to upskill them and get them automation ready. So all the supervisors, managers, and even the floor staff who are right now working in the automated DC are the same ones who used to work for Landmark in the manual DC. But now that they have been upskilled, now I think they are also managing the automated DC pretty well. So I think, and to your point on retail, so I don't think it is a lot of. So obviously, yes, it is labor intensive because there is a lot of physical movement even within the store, right? I mean, you have to properly lay out your back store, then move things to the merchandise to the front floor. You have to also do customer service, etc. So where I see more and more, I mean, the trend going is being more investing more in customer service. So I think that is where now the key is, because now there is hardly any. So now there are competitors in all price points. So it's not,
definitely.
earlier if you had a monopoly you could maybe not worry about customer service, but now it's not that time. You have to treat every 10 dirham that you sell to a happy customer. So I think customer service is becoming a very important part, and I would not call it labor intensive. It builds a connect with the customer, and that is what builds loyalty at the end of the day.
Now, what kind of learnings do you as a manager have to do on a day-to-day basis? You as a manager or a business head or something like that. What kind of learnings do you guys have to go through? Because what we have seen is that university education, if anywhere in the world, is basically about 4 to 5 years behind what is happening in the industry. And given that technology, especially in these areas, is are moving so fast and they're changing so rapidly, what kind of learnings, what kind of things do you have to look to, and what are the challenges that you yourself face to train yourself? What kind of learnings do you do?
So, I mean, that is, I feel learning is a very individual journey, and it again, as I told you, it all depends on the hunger.
Yes.
Learning it's a never-ending thing, and it's good to learn things, and it's a good time to be in the world. I feel right now, and it's supply chain is a very right part to be at this point, because the technology is changing so fast, and because supply chain impacts all the functions within an organization. You have something or the other new thing going on everywhere, right? Talk about blockchain, talk about AI, you talk about automation, you talk about RPA, you talk about IoT. So you have something to learn from everywhere. So I mean, for me personally, luckily, I have been involved in projects in each of which I had to learn something before getting into that project, because so I worked on a planning transformation project, but I was not a planner before. I mean, I worked in a warehouse. So I was asked to lead the planning transformation project, and I was not a planner. So I had to learn the planning skill set, or let us say the techniques and the nuances of it. Then I went on to work on RFID project. Again, now RFID very closely related to IoT kind of things. You need to understand, okay, what are the nuances of it. But over a period of time, what I've understood is, see, things are not complex. I mean, if you put in a little effort, you will learn it, and you don't need to get a PhD, or you don't need to go into the R&D of that. You just need to understand that much what is important for your business.